individual healing is intimately connected to the healing the past. And the reason is that there's so many places on earth, and there's so many locations and memories and impressions of times when things just went horribly wrong, and nobody really knew exactly how to fully heal that and change it and take care of it and make it pure again. Just people didn't know. So what they do is they'll, tear down buildings and then rebuild them, or just leave places, just leave them to kind of go back to nature like that. And what we're doing is we're moving into some of those more delicate spots. Thanks to Saturn, we can move into some of those more delicate spots and do the work, bring in the completions necessary to really bring those areas of our world energetically back to wholeness. And as we do that, it has a very positive effect on our ancestry and our own long histories as souls. And yesterday we went into an area I wasn't expecting, but when I reflected on it today, realized that it really is probably the most fundamental area that we could look at. And that was the energy that's in the collective consciousness and has been for centuries upon centuries, which is sort of an energy of personal self-destruction. And we looked at it sort of from the angle of suicide last night, but that when people get sort of taken over by the illusions of being unlovable and not valuable and so forth, and the despair and depression that goes with that, sort of gripped by it. It's a very dense energy, and it really is, it can take a person out very quickly, but when it's not dealt with in such a dense way, but it kind of stretches out a bit, then it moves into an influences area like warfare. Or, we've got two things going on. We've got the belief system that's behind that density of energy. And then we've got the density when a person's gripped by the density of energy themselves. So the being gripped part, when the collective gets gripped by it, then we end up with these things like terrorism and war and crime waves and stuff like that. But even before that, the belief system part of it brings me to a brilliant question that came in, having to do with a desire to look at our belief system, particularly religious beliefs. It's a little bit of a delicate area, so I want to treat it delicately. My dear friend who wrote this question did a brilliant job, by the way. I couldn't have framed it better. So I thought I would just read a bit of it here. And he says he knows it's like opening Pandora's box. So we don't want to offend anyone, of course, because religion has its value and has been a lovely thing in many cases, in many situations. However, there are a few fundamental elements there that haven't been supportive if we look back at the history, at least of Western civilization. Over the last couple thousand years, what we've seen is some nice technological progress, but certain problems just haven't seemed to be resolved at all. They're no better today than they were 2,000 years ago. Pretty fundamental problems too. Like suicide. There's still suicides. There's still warfare. There's still, all this stuff that, 2,000 years is a long time for a belief system to get rid of the influences in our world that are destructive. So it hasn't happened yet. So we need to look at it. I'm finding there's a good versus evil element here. And so the fact that there's a concept of the devil as part of the creation story, and warring and judgments and sin, and even bigger than that, and possibly most important, the concept of original sin, that we are just by our nature like completely not okay. It's kind of silly, actually. So, these are these really important concepts that we need to look at with regards to, so we're going to look at two things today, I guess. We're going to look at belief systems, and then we're going to look at the way the belief systems kind of roll out into the field of creation. And then there's a second point, which is so beautiful, he made, is how there's a big emphasis in religion about the fall of man, and an angry judgmental father casts us out of his love because we sinned against him, and we've been acting out ever since and judging ourselves and others and warring and suffering, and the vain hope that we know deep within us, it's hopeless. Oh my gosh. And we judge ourselves. Oh, I love this point that he made. Oh boy, have I seen this so much, right? Even in my own family, that we judge ourselves very harshly, quickly, right from the off, so that nobody else will judge us, so that God won't judge us, because when it comes time to stand before the judgment of God, we've already done all that work for him. So, he doesn't have to make it any worse than it already is. It's such a great point. I love that point. It's a beautiful point. These are areas having to do with belief. The belief is in the collective consciousness. So that means it's also in the web of life. And it's not my intention that we're undoing religion, because religion is there are lots of religions in the world, and there are lots of people, really well-intentioned, good-hearted people who represent religion and are doing their absolute very best to help. And they do help. They help. People help to some degrees, always to whatever degree they're capable. But some of the original concepts on which this whole thing is constructed need to be undone. I personally feel that all of us here on this webinar understand a deeper truth of our nature, understand from the level of both intellectualization and experience, both left and right hemispheric perspective, our union with our own divine nature. And that's why we did the healing yesterday. Be sure, if you want to catch a little bit deeper, go with that, to look at yesterday's webinar when you get the recording. But as a collective, what we're doing is, I'm seeing a kind of a matrix or grid overlaying over our webinar collective, and it's supporting the ability of us as a group to move through our own individual sacred webinar space into the collective of humanity. That's nice. And what's moving is, each of us are the celestial level, the collective level, collective and celestial level of self is moving. Causal body is activated to be a kind of an anchor, causal and astral bodies. So here's our 8 layers of the physiologies. We've got, this is the part that's moving. This is the part that's anchoring. Anchoring in order to support everybody in this webinar's ability to conceptualize, to understand what we are perceiving as we move. Because we don't move without intelligence. We need to move intentionally and use discrimination and so forth. So these are the areas, the subtle levels of the self are activating. And the quality of gratitude and reverence is resonating in the physiologies, and it's resonating through the web of life, this collective level of the physiology, with all the lively, warmed up, plumped up being is moving out into the collective field. I'm just watching that as it moves. It's very interesting. Moving through space and time, moving through Mm. Okay, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing cosmic densities around our whole solar system. More in the past than now. More in the past. It's much clearer now. That's one of the reasons why I chose this background, because we're talking cosmic here through time and space. Mm, mm, mm. There's a lot of it caused a kind of emotional delicacy in humanity for a long time. Looks like tens of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years. About like 40, 50, 40, around 40,000 years, between 34,000, 40,000 years, around in that time we started. It was a gradual moving in and then being in and then moving out. It's very interesting. So this density in the space around our Earth and space around our solar system was filtered. Oh, so interesting. So evidently there is a asteroid covering belt thing around our solar system. That actually, I'm seeing a kind of electromagnetic charge in a lot of the bodies that are out there, and their ability to filter a lot of this density from coming into the planets in our solar system. So that's very interesting that there was a lot of this liveliness of consciousness, conscious awareness, sitting in these structures, very massive as far as our little human bodies are concerned, massive structures, and smaller and larger structures outside of our solar system. And because they were functioning as a filtering system, they pulled a lot of that denser energy in and around their own bodies. But now what's happening is there's a shift taking place where we're moving into a lighter area of space. And as we do that, the density that is still around those bodies needs to purify and be released. So the first thing that's happening is I thought we were going to work just on Earth. Silly me. This feels like this is what's happening. The source of creation is utilizing the coherent integration of our group to create a flow of gratitude and compassion to the asteroid belt. Is it an asteroid belt? I think. See, I'm not like a super scientist, but anyway, this body of bodies that's around our solar system, and it's allowing a flow of light medicine, which is very soft and bright and cleansing, to move out into those physiologies and to wash them of this denser energy. And the denser energy was an energetic form anyway. It wasn't really a physical, maybe there could have been some, but I don't think. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like actual molecules and atoms of material. No, it was an energetic density that we went through. Like an emotional density, I'm seeing dense emotions, glyphotic energies, something that looks like sinister force, lots of material that creates like filtering and like fogginess and inability to really see clearly what's going on. All this material is cleansing, is cleansing, is cleansing. And what's beautiful is from Earth, we're shining this light of our awareness and loving, healing energy into this huge asteroid belt around our solar system. So the other planets in the solar system are watching that, and they also have their own means of supporting that process. So we get support from Venus, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and so forth. The moons of Saturn and Jupiter full of life, full of life, full of intelligent life. Really enjoying this. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Our little, it's like a little trickle. You start a little stream running down a hill. You start a snowball rolling down a hill. And then it gathers and it gathers and it gathers. That's how to support such a big area, because the area surrounding the outside of our solar system is quite huge. And we little tiny group of what, about, I don't know, 60 to 100 humans here. This flow of energy is carrying us, and it's purifying our physiologies. It's purifying any densities that these physiologies might have picked up from that same space that we were in. And as that happens, it's definitely communicating that purification down to the molecular atomic levels of our physiology. So it's affecting ancestors, it's affecting family, it's affecting all of our Earth. Heck, Earth is like teensy compared to all that big belts going around our solar system, right? The questions come in. Here we are. Hello. Oh, thank you. This is beautiful. It's called, this is my team here. It's called the Cooper belt. In Dutch, the pronunciation is Cooper, sometimes called Edgeworth Cooper belt, is a circumstellar disk in the solar system beyond the known planets, extending from the orbit of Neptune at 30 AU, approximately 50 AU from the sun. Cooper belt. Beautiful, beautiful. There's a lot of gratitude. The waves of gratitude right now are so intense. They're almost, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for raising a hand there. You knew. So the gratitude that's being produced by this work that we're doing is so intense. It is not, it's outside the range of our capabilities, I feel, as human individual nervous systems to fully process it. So what we need to do in order to allow it to flow sufficiently is, as the waves of gratitude flow back in through, because what happens is we sent a healing wave out, now it's coming back. So as that's happening, what we have to do is we have to offer it into the source, to the source of creation. Offer it at the feet of the great healer teacher within all of us, because that is, offer it to that collective level of our physiologies, that area that's responsible for all the work that we're doing anyway. And as we do that, that supports a creation of hoops, which I talked about hoops yesterday, hoops or loops of consciousness. We just touched on this yesterday, but I think as a bit of a review, because it is important, is that the nature of consciousness is to fold in on itself. It self-refers. It refers back to its own nature. And every time it does that, it creates new layers of its own expression. So what's happening is a loop has been created between the Cooper belt, the looper belt, the Cooper belt, and the celestial level of our physiologies, which is something we all share in common. The celestial and collective levels of the physiology are unbound by nature, and that's a level of our physiology that we're all in that level together. And so that includes everybody. That even includes, of course, obviously celestial beings, but it also includes all the people and all the life forms on all the planets and all the moons of the various planets and so forth. So that's where the gratitude is settling in. And what we're doing from here, because we're being a little innovative here. We just did something that nobody else had done. And as a result, it's like we started a little train moving and then a lot of others joined us. So now what we're doing is, as this gratitude comes in, that infinite, unbounded level of our own physiology offers the blessing back again. And this time, there's a lot more bliss in the system because we have now a foundation of so much gratitude. It's like an energy source or something. It's like a fuel. It's like a fuel. That love and gratitude is like fuel that allows the flow of our healing support to our whole solar system and our whole Cooper belt. And I'm seeing a wave flowing out from us all the way out to the Cooper belt, and then it shot back into the sun. And what's really cool, you guys, is if we're looking at just light, that can take a while. Light takes a while to travel, but subtle light, consciousness light, how long does it take you to think of the sun? It takes 8 minutes for the light from the sun to reach the earth, or from a light from the earth to reflect back to the sun. How long does it take to think of the sun? Instant is the answer. Instant. There's no delay. There's no delay. When we are working from the level of our celestial and collective physiologies, everything is instant. So what that means is we have the capacity to make this loop again and again and again and again. And every time the love and gratitude comes back, and every time it comes back stronger, and it's more than one single little we would explode. Is so much. So we have to give it back to that deep level of self, the actual physical. If our individuality tries to hold on to it, can't. So what happens is that loving gratitude, which is so sweet and so blissful, becomes like a rain of feeling in the body, and it feeds the body at a very, very deep level. At a atomic, subatomic, down a quantum level, physiology, every cell, every organ, every system, every tissue in the body is upgraded energetically. It's full of light, fills up with light. So we can just enjoy that we can do that, celebrate ourselves, celebrate our ability to do that. We can do that individually too. We're doing it as a group. This is like you can think of these waves of energy that are flowing through our solar system with us as kind of like the little epicenter of that process. We can think of that as a kind of music, if you will. It's like a light frequency, an energy frequency, sound frequency. It's a frequency of energy. So we have our little music lesson going on. But that doesn't mean that each musician can't go home and make their own music. You can. That's why we do this. And I'm saying that to you, but I'm also saying it to all the other beings on all the other planets, because they are definitely listening, and they are definitely picking up on this, and they are doing it from their musical traditions. And those musical, so beautiful. Now we get a chance to join the celestial collective, share our musical tradition with their musical traditions. Seeing particularly in Jupiter, beings whose bodies are composed of very fine material, very fine, almost, we would think of them almost like angels or something, because they're so fine like that, composed of space and light. They've been aware a long time, very sophisticated, and very full of joy. and they love our attention. I thought we were doing this for our Earth, and okay, that's okay. We're just going with it. We're going with it. So that was my little seed that I was putting in there. Is our intention was to do this as a support for the challenges that we're facing at a practical level here on Earth. That's my left brain coming in. Left brain coming in, and integration coming in, and orderliness being established at yet a higher level for all of us. We did a big organization of orderliness in the brain yesterday, and that included a huge upgrade for the left hemisphere, which I think may be going up as an excerpt this weekend if you want to just isolate that one out. We are receiving a download from the light beings on Jupiter. Very beautiful, very sweet. Jupiter, this is interesting. Today's a East Indian holiday for the teacher. And in East Indian tradition, Jupiter is called Guru. Just so happens by coincidence or not, that we're receiving the blessings of the Guru, our celestial Guru, Jupiter. My job with my voice over here is to unpack this download. So I will do my best. First thing I'm feeling is a quality of light in the core of the body, in the cord of light. You know, it runs from the crown of the head down through the body. And I'm understanding that this is happening not just for us in our collective of the webinar, but it's happening for everyone. And it's particularly happening because, remember, I put that seed in there when I said, oh, Jupiter is responding to us. I put in that seed. But what about the intention of our webinar? Is happening through time, through our collective of humanity. And it's a core of silence. It's a core of light. It feels as if in the cord of light, there's an area that's really, really, really empty. That's what it feels like. Like it's just very quiet. And it doesn't look like it occupies the whole cord. It looks like it occupies a space like about, let's see. Okay, here. So it occupies a space about that big in the cord of light, like right in the cord, from about the base of the head down through to, like, you know, just below the solar plexus area. And it's a shape like this. It kind of starts together and then it comes out and then it comes back together like that. And then it truncates at the bottom. It truncates at the bottom. That's what it looks like. And this core, this quiet core area, is attached to the source of creation in a way that it cannot be unattached. So it's glued in. It's glued in. It's so integrated with the energy of the source of creation, the silent bed of creation. So integrated that there's no separation at all. And what it's doing is it's establishing in the collective of humanity in such a way as to disallow the full like pulling the wool over people's eyes of the illusory beliefs that have been responsible for the damaging effects over the centuries. It disallows. It's such a reality, and it's so immovable. It's so immovable that it, regardless of how convincing a false belief is, or how much validation there is at the relative level of creation. And that happens, because whenever you hold a belief, whatever you believe, you will see that any little clue or any little bit from the environment that goes along with your belief is the one that your awareness will tend to pick up on. So regardless of that way that system works, it is disallowing any individual to become 100% fully befoozled by false information, by false beliefs. My big vocabulary. It is the home of divinity. It is the home of the divine. It is being held. It is each individual person being held in the loving embrace of the mother of creation in a way that it is undeniable. We cannot fully believe that we are separate. We cannot. It's interesting that these forms inside the physiology, and the biggest part of the form is kind of up here between the heart and the throat area. These forms present in our physiologies, what I'm seeing is they've always been present, but they were not always clear, and the grounding to source was not always present there. So what's happening in the collective is some of the extraneous material that's been sitting in that area of the physiology is going to very gently and delicately, very comfortably and tenderly, very gracefully release from the physiology. And it's a lot of stuff. Remember what we just did, right? Shouldn't be a surprise what's happening, even though to me there's a part of me that's always surprised. But we just offered from the level of our hearts and our devoted service to the good of all creation, a big healing for the Cooper ring. Cooper ring, was it a ring? Belt, thank you. Thank you, the Cooper belt. And now what's happening is it looks as if there was some little residue in us, and it was in this part of our physiologies, and it's being cleared now. So we offered that out to creation, and that is what's coming back to us now. And it's definitely affecting the astral body as well. Now, what's clearing out looks like to me, I can do some unpacking here, but it's quite a big mix of different, I could try to articulate all the mix of the different energies that are there, but we already looked at them when we were clearing the Cooper belt anyway. And I don't think what I'm feeling from this is it's not necessary to go into a big unpacking of what's dark and dense and yucky and sticky and nasty about the whole thing. Instead, I would like to draw attention to what's happening interesting at more of a collective level of what we're doing. That is that these little forms inside our physiologies are not so very unlike the forms that are in the inner area of the astral body, which I talked about a lot more yesterday. And these structures, once this space, this really clear space is established in the heart of the body, in the core of the body, it allows us to have abilities to integrate some natural, healthy abilities that were not as integrated before. And that includes the ability to send and receive information, which is also what those little forms in the astral body do. And there's so many, like zillions of them. I don't know. I didn't try to count if they're infinite, or are they infinite? No, I'm getting that they're not infinite, that there's a limited number. But it's a lot. It's a big limited number in the astral body. And does it change? Does the number change? Yes, the number can change. And just as how many bodies are on Earth at any given second can change. But each body, each physical body is a vessel for this divinity. And this space inside the body is like a home, a sacred home space for that divinity. And what it's doing is it's supporting an expanded ability or capacity on our part to express divine intention through, because it's here, it's in this area, through speech, through the things we do with our hands, through the workings of our hearts. And because the whole thing comes up like this, and the point goes right into that central area of the midbrain that we did that big healing for yesterday. And that midbrain goes up to the point of the pineal gland, the Ajna chakra. I'm saying it right now. Thank you. Up to the pineal gland. Pineal gland activation right now. Pineal gland is receiving that same beautiful, amazing seed of silence, mother of creation, source of creation, energy. Seeing an expansion of the etheric field around the pineal gland. This is happening collectively. This is happening on Earth. More beliefs are being cleared from ancestral lines. I'm counting ancestors. It's too many to count. And going back centuries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's kind of around 13, 14, 15, different for different people in the healing webinar. Around to, let's see, that would be around 500 AD to around 800 AD, around in that area, going back to ancestors that far. This clearing, this healing is happening for them. There's a lot of hope and promise going to our ancestors through the work that we're doing right now. Hope, promise, a lot of compassion. There's a lot of healing. There's heart healing, and particularly, this is so important, there's a lot of throat and voice healing. So people, supporting people's ability to express divinity through their speech, through the things they create with their hands, they carry on their shoulders, they carry babies. And that wave of purification and healing and love going out to the ancestors it's like it's initiating them into the collective of the source of creation, this collective wholeness of humanity, knowing itself in terms of its own divinity. This is eliminating a lot of false beliefs for our ancestors. All parts of the world. Integrating people's ability to understand themselves in terms of their divine nature, divinity as a whole, direct access to God through their physiologies, through the fact that they even live in physiologies. Physiology is a reflection of divine nature. You know, last night we were talking about this mix. Everybody's listening. It's so beautiful. All the ancestors are listening. This integration of the corpus callosum and the other like midbrain structures, the pineal gland being one, pituitary I think is another one, that there's just like, there's just one. There's like a lineup in the middle there, a little parade of organs. They represent physically the gap between the absolute and the relative in our physiologies. They represent the gap. But they're right next to this whole mouth, throat, neck area as well. Sinus, mouth, throat, this whole area of our bodies. And this represents the gap or relationship between the administrator of the life and the chief and the Indians, right? So there's a gap there. There's an integration in the gap there, and then there's also an integration in the gap here, because we've got the chief here and we've got the Indians down. The rest of it's all the Indians, right? So the gap, what does that tell us? The gap is present. The gap's here and it's here, and guess what? It's present everywhere else too. Every joint in the body, every synapse between nerve cells. It doesn't matter how deeply we look. We find a junction between these natural sides of the divine dialogue, if you will, the two strokes of consciousness as it folds in on itself. So what does it do? It collapses. Infinite, unbounded divine being collapses to the point of dynamism, and we've got physiologies and a physical world and stuff. We've got a world full of stuff. So this infinite, unmanifest, silent field of being collapses. It's the world of stuff. And then the entire world of stuff is the commentary on that silence. And so we have these two strokes. We have these two strokes of the divine dialogue. The collapse in one direction and the collapse in the other direction. The gap between them is the point where our awareness settles. Because as we settle in to that, then the whole picture comes into the range of awareness. The whole picture's activated. And this connects the potential to create anything, to manifest anything, with the actual manifestation itself. It's very powerful. All right. So much for belief systems. Let's look at how this process goes from a belief or an idea or a thought into an actual manifestation. We're going to go look a little more deeply into what is actually happening from something that's just on the level of consciousness, like a dream, to actually living it. Great body of false beliefs have held, or we could say almost imprisoned, humanity over the course of centuries. And they also, the beliefs have also built up in layers in our world. So they become very dense, and they are even represented as structures that we've built. We've built buildings based on our beliefs and so forth. So there's kind of a big sort of heavy, dense establishment. I saw a little comment on Facebook the other day. The three branches of government are big agriculture, big farm, and big banks. Three branches of government. Unfortunately, it's like, unfortunately, kind of true. Anyway, so there's been a lot of bigness that's been built up. The thing about this space within our physiologies and within the physiologies of everybody now is that it's not going to let people be gripped by fear the way we were before. Having that feeling that mother is at home, and mother is at home right inside me as my own self, will stop people from being fooled by input from the environment that's designed to elicit a fear response. You did this. You did this. You did this. We did this. We did this today. It's changing our world. We're changing our world. Now, like rolling a snowball down a hill, these beliefs that have been building up in layers, and they have even big buildings built around them and so forth, have been rolling down the hill for a long time. So they're still around. They're still around. They're still rolling around. So what we need to do is we need to create, I'm asking all of you amazing, powerful, spiritual, exquisite healer people, healer friends in this group, all of us together, our group, our collective as a whole, how to unpack that suitcase and deal with each item in the suitcase in the most effective way. I'm looking at how the social structures have built up around the beliefs and how a lot of people feel kind of trapped or entrenched in their situation, and they do not see an escape route. They only see going on and on as they are, endlessly, tiringly, just trying to escape them. They're just trying to escape by falling into self-medications and self-comforts and so forth. So we're feeling ourselves into that space in people's awareness, that feeling of being trapped in their little space and they can't get out and they can't get loose and they don't know how to release. So here's the deal. The beliefs are nurtured and cultivated on the level of the individual. And that's how they can grip an entire society and cause great big, political structures and so forth. So we need to work at the level of individual belief. And so even within our group, this is a very beautiful protocol, just came to me over the last couple of days. And I think it's amazing. So I'm happy to share. I'm sure it came over the last couple of days because it was supposed to be part of this webinar. When a thought comes up of something which is not valuable or useful to you, and in this case, we could use the example of, say, eating some food that you know darned well you don't need. What happens when we eat sweet, rich foods is it causes a surge of energy to flush through the dopaminergic pathways and gives us a little, oh, I'm celebrating myself feeling. So this thought, I was monitoring it in myself the other day. And because I was quite hungry, but I was meditating and I didn't want to get up and eat something because, so what I noticed was about once every 90 seconds, this thought would come up, ooh, how about a cookie? And I'm like, I'm meditating, no. And then about 90 seconds, oh, how about a cookie? And I'm like, after so many repetitions, I'm like, I got to get rid of this. This is like a broken record and I can't meditate with it at all. So what I did was every time how about a cookie came up, I offered it another option. I said, thank you for that thought, but how about a walk after I meditate? How about a nice walk in the fresh air? How about going swimming or a bike ride? Yeah. So, and then after that thought was the celebration of self. Oh, I did it. I switched over, and it didn't take very long. It took only a few repetitions. Only a few repetitions to undo that broken record. So what would happen is, how about a cookie? How about a wonderful, lovely walk in the fresh air? I celebrate myself because I just undid how about a cookie. The I celebrate myself creates a flush of energy through the dopaminergic pathways, which is exactly what the cookie was trying to accomplish, right? So instead of, using the cookie as the permission slip for the dopaminergic flush. We used I celebrate myself because I just undid something that I didn't need as the permission slip for the dopaminergic flush. Does that make sense? Does everybody get that? So the thing is this, you can let me know if you have a question. Here's the thing. Thanks, raised hand. Yeah. If that thought, I want a cookie, is caught when it's already rolled out more or less to the surface of the mind, then it's already done a bit of damage in the more delicate levels of the thinking. So what we do is, the work that we're doing in this healing session is supporting our ability to catch those thoughts when they're a little bit younger, when they're more of a feeling, when they're a feeling of, I feel unsatisfied, then the I feel unsatisfied becomes I want a cookie. And so, so the I want a cookie has a reality at a deep level of the mind. And what we're doing is we're completing, it's like an incompletion. Because what's going on there is there's some aspect of self which isn't fully satisfied. So that incompletion is coupled with a complete feeling of, I am taking such good care of myself because I'm totally going to have a walk in the beautiful sunshine and fresh air right after this. Or I'm going to stretch. How long? Here's the difference. It takes 20 seconds to take a bite of a cookie and chew it up and swallow it. It takes 20 seconds to do a good stretch, right? Up and then down, right? It only takes 20 seconds. So we need something to replace it with. It's the same amount of time. So, and here's another cool thing about stretching, is that stretching causes increased sensitivity. This comes from John Gabriel, who's a biochemist who turned weight loss guru. Okay, so what John Gabriel said was that stretching, like yoga, actually increases leptin sensitivity in the physiology. Nice, huh? Yeah, nice big stretch. Let's just stretch there for a minute, huh? Yeah, it increases leptin. Leptin is the hormone that is your weight loss hormone. It makes you, it decreases appetite. It increases fat metabolization. It gives you energy, makes you feel vital and full of energy. So I want a cookie couples with, it gets married to, I want to stretch. Or I want to do the plank. You can do the plank for 20 seconds, man. That's a little bit of a workout. Anyway, or any variety of nice, enjoying being in your body and physical movement. And then celebrate. You celebrate yourself because you just made wholeness out of an incompletion. And the celebration gives you the instant gratification that the cookie would give you after you ate it or while you're eating it. And you get to celebrate even before you start stretching, because it couples, the two couple together, and then I celebrate myself. Try it. It's not a diet. It's not an exercise. It's not a pill or a potion. It's just, it's actually an energetic consciousness pill or potion, creating that light medicine that activates the dopaminergic pathways and allows you to feel wonderful about yourself, to love yourself. And we've done the preliminary work of getting rid of all those feelings of I don't love myself. And I'm hearing from the past history of humanity that there's still feelings of I don't love myself. And we looked at this energy yesterday for the last part of yesterday's healing webinar. It was very dense and it was very intense. And we did some layers of healing on it, but I feel that we could stand to do more, because this feeling of I don't love myself is fundamental to all the other unhappinesses, pretty much all of them. If you want to look at the way war is structured, or you want to look at the way belief systems that keep the masses controlled are structured, any of these big things will go back to, they'll find their way back to this seed of, I don't love myself and I don't recognize myself as divine being. The problem is there's a little bit of a paradox in there, because if the I love myself is attached to the idea that I'm an isolated form of creation separate from everything else in creation, then switching it over to I do love myself can become somehow narcissistic, or it becomes some forms of vanity or ego. A lot of individual small ego gets caught up in this thing, and then it becomes a useless thing. It becomes a damaging thing because, well, I love myself, but I don't love the next guy, like that. And that's not okay. So the paradox is solved by bringing in wholeness, that in order for I do love myself to reside and to stabilize and integrate in the system, into every cell of the body, into every wave of light medicine that's produced at the subtle levels of the physiology, to feed the physiology. Even this work that we did earlier, remember that wave was coming back from the Cooper belt, and it was so rich, it was so delicious. And I said, I think it's more than our physiologies can even handle. Maybe our physiologies can handle it. Maybe what's happening now, this is what I'm thinking is going on, is that some little dregs or leftovers or little imbalances in our physiologies were disallowing everybody. I'm looking at everybody's physiology in the group. Everybody's physiology a little bit different. Everybody received all that loving gratitude back into their collective level of self, but how well that energy can integrate into your physical body is based on this other element, which is how much of this dense energy that's behind depression, suicide, despair, that energy, how much of that is still present in the physiology, and how much now is going to be resolved out of the physiology. So we're taking that energy, we're offering it back to being. We're offering it back on behalf of our own beings, our own individual physiologies, and we're also offering it back to being on behalf of the collective of humanity, because what we're really wanting to amend here are these large collective structures that are built around a kind of a manipulation and exploitation of the collective of our world. And that's the same energy that's behind that. It's the same energy behind those big, highly structured, highly protected organizations which have no one's best interests at heart. So what I'm doing is I'm seeing the seed of it clearing, and I'm feeling that as an energy structure clearing. And luckily we have our nice little embrace of Mother Divine center. So that area that's really running from up here at the pineal gland all the way down and through the core of the body, basically, all the way down. At this point, it's expanding now. So it's from here all the way down. All the way through the 7 chakras at least. That one healing that we got earlier, when at a collective level that center core was being cleared, it allows it to expand through the range of the physical form. And it becomes a central spindle from where the precise qualities of light medicine required to undo doubt, despair, depression, self-hatred, etc. radiate. And they're safe. These light medicines are safe within us. They can radiate through those areas up into the emotional body and the mental body and undo the beliefs, particularly in the collective consciousness, those areas where people individually are still holding beliefs of separation. It looks like the healing that we did for the left hemisphere of the brain yesterday is now being extended to the collective consciousness. Good job, everybody. That is big. That right there is big. And I'm just feeling it, and I'm offering the movement. It's, right now, even though I know we're at our time, there's a lot of movement of energy, of consciousness and being. And so each flow of this movement of energy is being offered back to the source of creation, lovingly, with gratitude, appreciation, of course. And I'm feeling, it almost feels like often it happens, a little bit of a kind of strength energy sitting in the solar plexus. I don't know anybody else feeling that, like a little bit of almost like a contraction in the solar plexus, a little bit, that's creating a stable foundation for the flow of the energy to radiate through our physiologies as the vessels of divinity. And so much energy moving. All right. No hands raised on that one, but that's okay. That tells me that we have something more that we can go into in future sessions. I can't believe we're already at our time. It's been really amazing to be with everyone today, and we've done a lot of really beautiful work. A lot of it, I would say, was very deep. Some of it, the work that occurred for our own personal physiologies. Say, oh yeah, many thanks coming in. Thank you for being with me. The work that was done for our personal physiologies in today's session, I would say, was both deep, but also at more of a level where it integrates to the relative, where you're going to see results. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for everyone, to everyone. So everyone actually experiences and receives concrete, tangible, countable benefits from the work that we did today. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with me. I love you all so dearly, and I'm so thrilled to spend this time with you.